Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at ACity, are driven by. ACity, we believe that the challenges of today are nothing like the opportunities of tomorrow. Hence, we're poised for the future. And so we say,
come join us.
Pakuli.
Yasinyan.
Oyai Tibatane.
Zalfura Nabia.
Viens nous rejoindre.
Brabe Kayan.
Zoko Hadidem.
Ao, Amarasat Shame Hojao.
As we lead the charge to empower the next generation of future-ready leaders. ACity University College, redefining university education. Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at ACity, are driven by. ACity, we believe that the challenges of today are nothing like the opportunities of tomorrow. Hence, we're poised for the future. And so we say,
come join us.
Pakuli.
Yasinyan.
Oyai Tibatane.
Zalfura Nabia.
Viens nous rejoindre.
Brabe Kayan.
Zoko Hadidem.
Ao, Amarasat Shame Hojao.
As we lead the charge to empower the next generation of future-ready leaders. ACity University College, redefining university education. Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at ACity, are driven by. ACity, we believe that the challenges of today are nothing like the opportunities of tomorrow. Hence, we're poised for the future. And so we say,
come join us.
Pakuli.
Yasinyan.
Oyai Tibatane.
Zalfura Nabia.
Viens nous rejoindre.
Brabe Kayan.
Zoko Hadidem.
Ao, Amarasat Shame Hojao.
as we lead the charge to empower the next generation of future-ready leaders. ACity University College, redefining university education. Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at ACity, are driven by.
22 Career Fair. You guys all look very nice today. I'm quite proud of the way you've dressed. Our guest speaker for today comes from Vodafone Ghana. He's the Digital Transformation Manager. His name is Alexander Aborkwah, and he will be telling us about what he does, what he looks for in entry-level employees, and the future of work for females in technology and engineering. But before that, we can't start a program without our president gracing the floor for us, can we? So I would like to invite Dr. Fred to come and give us the welcome address.
Thank you, Mr. Say. I appreciate all you do for us. Good morning. Why, are you guys hungry? Invited guest, Mr. Aborkwah, thanks for making time to be here. You are much appreciated. So I'm not going to say much. Usually when I have the microphone in my hands, I say a lot. But what I would like to leave you guys with this morning is that everything we try to do with you guys here boils down to this moment. This moment when you have to go into real life, apply the skills you've learned here, both the technical, the non-technical, and the ability to work with other people. I never miss the opportunity to tell you that two of the main reasons why anybody will hire you is the skills you bring to bear and your ability to work with other people. There are many more, but no matter how brilliant you are, if you can't work with others, you will not have a successful career. The world has become so complex that one person cannot do everything. And when I get a chance to talk on leadership to my students, to you guys, most of you have been in my leadership series, I tell you about one cultural limitation that we have as a people. We are very emotional. When somebody crosses you, you never want to work with them again. You won't talk to them severally. You walk away from them when you see them in the hallway. But nobody really hires you to bring that kind of attitude to their workplace. You always have to find a way to work with people that you may not even have a drink with after work. You have to learn to manage your anger. Quitting comes naturally. Anytime you are offended, we are all princes and princesses, right? We want to be treated with respect. You want to quit. You can't just quit. You have to think through quitting. Managers, you don't want to fight your manager. Your manager is like your parent. You hate them or love them, somebody knows why they are your parents. The same way somebody knows why that person is your manager. You may be smarter than your manager, but there is a reason why that person is your manager, right? And it's not for you to decide. It's for the institution that they represent to decide. So what I have found useful in my career through corporate America was how to take my manager and make him work for me. Your manager has to see you as a strategic partner. Your manager has to know that you are working for them to be successful. Don't forget, they also want to be successful, right? They have a career to build. And who wants to surround themselves with people who are pulling them back? Everybody wants to surround themselves with winners and champions, and that is what you are when you are working for a manager. Giselle said earlier that you guys were nicely dressed. Of course. You have to look decent at work also. You can't go there looking half naked, pants sagging, cleavage out. It's not a fashion show, right? You have to go there looking decent. And you guys see me come to work all the time in jeans, right? You are probably wondering whether the president has clothes allowance. Well, I don't have clothes allowance. But I wear jeans because I'm tired wearing suits. That's what I did in corporate America. And when you train engineers, you want to also present an image that you're approachable, you are down to earth, and you can go under the table and fix stuff. So when I first went to ACity, they said you can't wear jeans to work. They didn't consider that casual. And I wore jeans to work every day. So one day HR calls me. HR is really powerful. If you don't know that, anywhere you work at, believe me, HR is the most powerful person in the organization, even if they walk around looking weak. They say, Dr. Fred, jeans. I said, yeah, jeans. She said, why jeans? I said, Why not jeans? Now you can do that, okay? I was the dean of engineering. So then I said, look, we've trained engineers in this country for 60 years. They've not built anything. Don't you want to change the dynamics and make the students believe that engineers are supposed to go on the ground and fix stuff and not sit in offices or end up becoming bankers because it's cooler. It's really nice to fix a car, to fix something. So at the next HR meeting, she comes and she said, there's a new definition for casual wear. Dr. Fred, could you step up? And I did. And so jeans was allowed. Look, it was a cultural change, and you will also find out that as you go into institutions, they have their own set of cultures that are very, very difficult to change. Don't walk into an organization thinking that you can change it. Things exist in those organizations for a purpose. And when you get hired, and the first thing you do in any company is start to criticize the company, you're not going to have a career in that place. You're supposed to go in, dig in, bury your head, learn, and understand the ethos of that organization. So that's one. Now, how do you get a job? You said I have 10 minutes, right? So how much do I have left? Like 2 more minutes? Okay. So look, every job interview you go to, you have to go in with a mindset to get that job. Are you guys listening? Don't say, I'm just going for this interview to practice. You can't gamble with your life that way. So I'll tell you how I got my first job, and then I'll drop this microphone. So I walk into Siemens a week after 9/11. Remember, nobody was hiring at that time. The world has come to a standstill. But if you have skills that an organization is looking for, they will hire you. So never go around saying there are no jobs. There are always jobs. Most companies will tell you they can't find the skills, but there are jobs. So 9/11, no flights. But Siemens flew me from a small village called Lafayette, Indiana, on a private jet to New Jersey. Did you hear that? Planes were not flying. And I was nobody. I just had some skills that they were looking for. So I got there, interviewed with the manager, who was then the director. He took me on a tour through the manufacturing floor. I interviewed 2 other people, and then now I had to close with him. And the whole time, I was really excited about the job. I was asking questions. I wasn't just following him around on the manufacturing floor. And believe me, apart from the skill set that I had never walked through a manufacturing floor. But by asking questions, he could see the interest and the enthusiasm, right? And then we came to the famous question. He said, do you have any questions for me? Most people go to interviews and they are so nervous and they are in a hurry to get out. And when they ask them that famous question, they said, no, never say that. That is your moment to close the deal. Did you hear that? That, do you have any questions for us, is when you get a job. So I looked at him straight in the face and I said, you've spoken to me for the last hour and a half. Do you have any doubts about my ability to do this work? And he said, no. And so I leaned in a little bit. I said, are you sure? And he said, yes, absolutely. I said, very well. Where do we go from here? You got a plan? I'm closing the deal right there and then. Then he said, I'm leaving for Germany tomorrow. By Monday, you hear from us. The limousine come, I jump into it, got to the airport, he calls me, and he said, you have a job. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fred, for the nuggets of wisdom and the wonderful tips that you gave to our students. I'm sure they're feeling more confident to go out there right now and speak to the companies that are represented here today. So without further ado, allow me to introduce to you our guest speaker for today. Alex is the Digital Transformation Manager of Vodafone Ghana. His passion for digital is reflected in his focus on change, transformation, and delivering results in Vodafone. He comes with over 15 years' experience working in different roles, both technology and commercial, within the telecom industry. He was born in Accra, went to Adesaddle College in Cape Coast, worked with VRA and the erstwhile Tigo, which is now Airtel Tigo. He joined Vodafone Ghana in 2011. He's passionate about people, especially female excellence, and is extensively involved in the mentoring of young graduates under the Vodafone Graduate Executive Program. Did you hear that? The Vodafone Graduate Executive Program. So keep that in mind for future reference. And he coaches them to unearth their highest potential. 90% of his current team are females. In addition to driving internal digital transformation within the company, he also supports in driving Vodafone's digital society agenda within Ghana, leaving no one behind in the digital society. This he has executed through partnerships with other organizations such as the Vodafone Ghana Foundation, Ghana Tech Lab, Hack Lab Foundation, MEST, among others, to organize digital training for the youth, coding training for girls, such as Code Like a Girl project, digital youth apprenticeship programs, hackathons, and digital experience sessions for JHS and SHS students across the country. He holds a BSc in Electrical and Electronic Engineering from KNUST, a Master's in Business Administration Finance from the University of Ghana Business School. He is passionate about soccer, golf, basketball, and traveling with his family. He is a lifelong supporter of Cape Coast Ebusua Dwarfs and Liverpool Football Club. Let's welcome Mr. Alex Aborkwah to the stage.
Good morning. Let me just switch this on and then we can get started. Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity to have a session with you. Thanks, Prof. Thanks, Giselle. It's an honor to be here. And it's really tough, you know, I'm in a bit of an awkward position after all that Prof had said. You know, he said 10 minutes, but he did part of the job, so I'll try and see if I can finish it off. But you know something interesting? You know, when Prof said, you know, I'll just drop the mic, I thought he was just going to go. But, you know, it's all of those things. I know Prof is catching up, you know, he's catching up. One of these days, he'll just drop it for you, all right? So I'll talk a little bit about my career today. Okay, let me get this up. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about my career today. I'll talk about what skills you need for work, and then skills for the future of work. And then I'll talk also a little bit about some other opportunities that you have with Vodafone. I'm sure you get more details on that once you speak to the team outside as well. But I think like Giselle mentioned, so I'm a proud Santa Clausian. I have to say it, you know. I can't mince words with that. So if you are from, you know, if you went to Mfanzipim or something, sorry for you, but you know, this is a very proud Adesaddle boy. No shade, no shade, no shade. I'll try not to shade them today. I'll try not to. And then I did general science in school. And then after graduating from Adesaddle, I went to KNUST where I offered BSc Electrical and Electronic Engineering, like was said. You know, usually when I come to functions like this and people hear the name, oh, Alex Aborkwah, he's a manager from Vodafone, people usually expect to see some big guy, Bill. And then, you know, you come up, you know, sometimes they doubt, Charlie, are you Alex Aborkwah? I say, yeah. And they're like, oh, okay. You get that reaction. But, you know, it's all good. Sometimes, I'm sure if I'd come here without a jacket or something, you probably might think I'm one of the students, but that's my blessing. Anyway, you know, I remember once I went to a bank, I was, you know, just going to, you know, try and cash out some money from the bank. So I park my car, I go inside, get my money, and then as I'm coming out, the security man goes like, "Oh, so boy, wait my friend Papa no be in the car if you I was coming on the side with my bag, so I had to drop it on the side. So I was just opening the door. He goes like, "Oh, so boy, wait my friend Papa no be you car in China." I'm sure you might say. I just walked around the other side, sat in my car. He was like, "Oh, hey, car." I'm saying, "Hey, yo, boss, hey, me, I'm a car." I was like, "Oh, sorry. I'm sure. No worry." But we have that kind of thing. But it's a good thing. Sometimes it works really, really good for you. But we'll take it easy today and we'll see what's up. So about my career, it's just a blank page. Don't expect anything. Nothing else is coming up. It's just a blank page. So I went to tech almost 20 years ago. Again, people get surprised when I say that. That was like 20 years. Some of you probably were not born by then, but it's all good. Don't ask me my age. Don't. It's not part of the discussion. So I was in tech 20 years ago. I'm sure if Prof told you how, when he went to school, you'd be like, "Man, this man is not a young man." So I started with electronic engineering. And in my very first year, there was a course called engineering maths, analysis. They teach you all this kind of crazy mathematics, man. And, engineering maths 101, it was 4 credits. And they used to teach us this thing in maths. I don't know whether you guys still do it. They come and they give you some functions and they tell you that the function is in the deleted delta neighborhood of something. Charlie, it took me like ages to understand that thing. But finally, well, we graduated and we made it. But one of the things I learned, and I'll drop the nuggets as I go along. So you just have to pick them up as we go along. We think, you go to school, you learn some of those things, and sometimes you can't really it's like, Charlie, you are learning deleted delta neighborhood of something, you are learning some crazy formulas, sometimes it's a little bit hard to put it together. At least good for you these days, you get a lot of practical work to go with whatever you learn, so it makes a little bit more sense. But in my time, Charlie, you had to go take the book, read it, and then after that, you come and pour it out. But the thing I learned early on in my learning or in my career was the fact that I always try to make sense of whatever I learned. So whether it was something about deleted delta neighborhood or some other formula or some crazy stuff that you do in semiconductor devices, all those crazy formulas that you learn, there's always some method to the madness. You just have to find it. And that's something I picked up very early in my career. So for everything I do, I have to understand it from first principles. And that helps me to be able to then build on, because it's one thing knowing it, and it's another thing being able to apply it. If you know it and you can apply it, you always stand out because you do more than people who just know it. So early on, I would, people would just go and try and learn and pass. I would probably go try learn and, get an understanding. I probably wouldn't do so well sometimes, but I still believe it was a good thing or was the right thing to do, try learning and understanding it. So through tech, there's also something very interesting I did. So when I was in my 3rd year, usually you get to, choose an area of specialization. So you do first year, lots of general stuff. 2nd year, you start branching into electrical. And in the electrical class, we used to do everything: computer engineering, electronics, satellite communications, telecommunications, everything. You do everything. It was very, holistic. And then when you get into your 3rd year, you start moving into your areas of specialization. But one other thing I did was, even though it was at the detriment of, having fun and all that, of course we did have some fun too. But I took on extra credits. So even though I wanted to specialize in telecoms, I took power courses as additional, credits, which meant that I had to spend a lot more time in class, write more examinations than everybody else would do. But for me, it was, again, about trying to have a good understanding. So this is me. I'm doing, telecoms as a specialty, but then I also go and take power engineering classes, just so I can understand what power engineering is and be able to further that as well. And that is one of the things that really helps me to stand out in my, in my career, because whatever I do, I can then connect it to so many different things. So I'm doing telecoms, all right, but for telecom machines to work, you need to understand it use energy. The energy is coming from your power engineering. You just need to be able to understand that. So if I go and there's a problem, like Prof said, engineers are, we like to solve problems. So when I go and there's a problem, I have to understand, okay, is this something that is related to the power, or is this something that's just related to the board or whichever thing it is? And that always helped me to be able to stand out. So I took on extra courses, both in my third year and then in my final year. And the thing I learned from that, or one of the things that helped me with that, was the fact that it made me a very well-rounded person. So I could have a conversation with any of my course mates on anything, whether it was power engineering, whether it was power electronics, whether it was computer engineering, whether it was telecoms. I could speak to anybody. I could have a conversation. I could have a discussion. Same way. So it's always helpful if you can then always add on, you know, my first thing to you is, it's always good if you can add that one thing that makes you different from the other person to be able to build breadth. Then I got out of tech, and then I started working with Volta River Authority. So I worked with VRA. I was with their computer MIS, Management Information Service team, responsible for managing their PCs, hardware, local area networks, and that kind of stuff. You know, fixing anything from PCs to printers to, you know, industrial printers and anything to do with their network connectivity and all that. The good thing is that I learned computer networking in school, so it was nothing new. I could understand how I would apply that. And again, because I tried to learn and understand what I am learning, there were things that, you know, simple things like, you know, somebody's trying to configure some IP and it just doesn't work, right? And because I would understand, okay, what is the IP, what's the subnet, what's this, I can ask you all the right questions, and then by the time we are done asking the questions, we have a solution. Because I would have to apply whatever I learned in school. You know, even though sometimes you don't get a practice, learn and apply whatever you've learned in school, and you always find good use for it. The other thing also, maybe one of the things I regret was, you know, we did computer programming in school. Those days we used to call it computer programming, not coding and all those fancy names you have today. And maybe it's one of the things that I probably think if I were able to turn back up the hands of time, I'd probably do a little bit more of, right? So I did some computer programming. Those days, you know, I'm not sure you've heard of this computer program name. It's called Pascal. How many of you have heard about Pascal? There are no GUIs, so it's all, you know, prompt. You have to type every single line. There's no shortcuts. These days, you are lucky you can, you know, have very nice, interesting GUIs. You have, you know, libraries that are already designed for you. You just go, you know, include those libraries and you are gone. With Pascal, you have to write everything from scratch. Every single thing, line by line. Just imagine you've written like, you know, you've written like 100 lines of code, and then when you run the thing, Charlie, there's an error. And you are so confused. There's no debugging. Please, there's no debugging in this case, so you have to go and debug yourself. So you can just imagine 100 lines, just 100 lines of code, and then after that you run it, and then, Charlie, the thing is not running. There's a bug somewhere, and you have to go through line by line trying to figure out. That's how bad it was. So maybe if given the chance, and I could go back, I'll probably do a lot more, or I'd have paid more attention to programming, taking it more seriously, because today is a ish thing. You know, if you know how to code, you know, you can find a job anywhere, whether it's a bank, whether it's a school, anywhere, you can find a job. But I did do some coding. I did take it seriously, though, but maybe not as seriously as I would have wanted as of today. And that's the thing. You need to learn that, you know, whatever you are studying today, you need to take seriously, even the courses you hate the most. You know, sometimes you find out that they are the ones that will really make the biggest difference in your life as you grow up. So after working with VRA for a little over a year and a half, I joined Tigo then, and I was in the radio frequency, you know, team. That was something that was well within my range, right? It's because I'd done telecoms in school, so radio frequency, microwaves, you know, all those crazy formulas that you learn in school, the Nyquist and all those crazy things that you learn. They are very, very interesting. When you get to understand them and you get into the field and you're using them, it makes so much sense. And you wonder, Charlie, what was I thinking? I was really stupid those days, wow. But, you know, it's a process. Sometimes it takes certain things for you to figure out, you know, some of those very complex things. And you realize, this thing, it wasn't really complex after all. But it's a part of your growing up, it's a part of your building yourself up, and then being able to get yourself to where you have to get to. But one of the things that I probably made the biggest difference when I was working in Tigo was the fact that we were really allowed to try out and explore things, right? It was so much so that sometimes there are things that, manufacturers like, Siemens or Nokia or Huawei would have done, and we would challenge ourselves to say we will do something that is, we'll use the same equipment to do something that's even more than what the equipment was designed for. So I remember one of those times, there was a cell site that we had to go work on. And this cell site was in the very densely populated area at Aborkwah. The site was always congested. People couldn't make calls at certain times in the day. And we had done everything, put in new sites, added additional resources, and it was just not working. So we spoke to the vendor, and the vendor said, we told him we had a few ideas. We wanted to do this and, add a few other, transceivers to the site. And they said, no, we've hit the capacity of the equipment that we are using. There's nothing else we can do, right? So me and a couple of guys, we just got together and said, well, we need to find a way around this. It has to happen by hook or crook. But, it then comes back to the same thing I said again about understanding what you are doing and then being able to apply that understanding to make a difference or to do more or to add value. And that's the thing that any organization looks out for. What value do you bring? It's not about what work you can do. If I'm a boss and I'm hiring you, I'm looking for what value you bring and not what actually you can do. So whatever we do, you have to bear in mind, you need to add value. Adding value is not the same as just completing a task. People just complete tasks today. It is to, my task is to make sure that I prepare a report. I've prepared a report, it's done. If that report doesn't add any value, believe me, in the next 2 or 3 days, if somebody is asking for somebody to sack you, you'll be the first person they give up. But if you add value, it means that minus you, something will not go well with the organization. And nobody wants to do anything that would make a negative impact on their business, right? So if you're adding value, it means that you are so important to the organization that without you, something will not work. And that's the difference. It's not about you being able to complete a task. It's not about you being able to do something. But you need to be able to add value to your organization. You need to be able to add value to whatever your boss is asking you to do. So if, they ask you to, just fix this, AC or fix this projector or whatever, you need to find other ways by which you can add value to the whole process, right? And that is what makes the difference between you and the next person in terms of when it comes to who do we sack when we have to do a redundancy, or who do we promote when the opportunity springs up, right? So again, back to the story. So we went through some of the documentation that the same organization had given us. And we were like, well, they said you can't do A, B, C, and D, but what if we tried A and then tried to mix it up with X or Y? And then let's try it and see. And you know what actually happened? We actually tried something that worked, and then went back to the vendor and told him that, yeah, what you said we couldn't do, we've actually done it, right? And that's always meant that for like the group of guys that we were working with, we were always adding value, such that the organization would always look at you and say, well, what else can we do for this person? What do we need to do to keep this person? What do we need to make sure that this person is happy and they want to continue working with us? Because in the long run, if you can add value, it is what determines how well you get paid. Most of the time we make the mistake and think, well, I want to get paid well. No, you need to first add value, show your value. Once you have your value, the pay will just take care of itself. At a certain level, when you get to an interview, you don't ask how much they are going to pay you, because you know what value you bring into the business. And based on that value, they will determine, well, whether this is good enough or that is not good enough. Like, Prof said, HR people, they know everything. They know how much you are getting paid. They know how much, others are paying. And they know what value you are bringing. Based on that, they know what is fair or what is not fair. Right? So always focus on adding value to yourself and making sure that whichever business you would find yourself in, you are adding value. It's the same way, you bring it to life. So if you have friends that don't add value to you, they are taking value from you. It's as simple as that. It's, people that don't add value are taking value. A few people are, they are neutral. They don't add value. They don't take anything. But most of those people are just time wasters. They don't add anything good. So you need to always see how you are adding value, because if you are not adding value in the organization, then it's difficult to say we would want to keep you. And then I moved on to Vodafone, and it was almost entirely different. So in Tigo, it was just purely a mobile network. And then in Vodafone, I had to come and learn how to do fixed network, because Vodafone had a fixed network. Tigo didn't have, but Vodafone did. And that was entirely new. Principles are basically the same. Again, it comes down to what your understanding is. Like somebody said, when the fundamentals are weak, what will happen? Hey, you are not listening to the news. When the fundamentals are weak, what will happen? Exactly. So when your level of understanding is not really good, when it comes to those times when things are really tough, you find yourself really struggling, right? But when your fundamentals are really strong, when your level of understanding is there, you'd always find that you can apply that knowledge in different ways. And that's what makes the difference. It's not that you just know it, but your ability to apply it in different ways, in different scenarios. There's almost like a limitless possibility to some of the things that you can do. It's only left to you for you to find out how you can apply some of those things, right? How some of these very popular, engineers and scientists and inventors came up with, they think of what different thing can I do with this? I try it out 1,000,000 times and see how it will work. And that's how engineers do things. You have a certain idea, you have a certain principle, you challenge those principles, you apply those principles, and then you use them to create new stuff. So I had to totally, learn something that I had never known about before, which was fixed engineering. But because I had built a lot of basic understanding from what I learned in school, it's the same principles. Learn what understand what you have, and then use that to apply to that environment. And it was like I had been working in the fixed industry for God knows how long before. It was just a smooth sailing for me, right? Because I really understood what the principles are. And then, along the line, I branched from hardcore engineering into digital, which for me was like crazy, because everything was always, with digital, everything is always changing. Today is this, the next time is something else. And you always have to keep on your toes. And that's the other thing. You always need to find ways of reinventing yourself. You always have to find ways of refreshing yourself and staying always on top. You know something today, but you always need to add on to that to continue to stay on top. What you know today will only get you to a certain point. You would need to add on to that for you to be able to go on to the next level. And, since then it has been smooth sailing. It's tough sometimes, but there's always a way around it to make sure that things really work. So, what skills do you need for work in today's industry? And there are two main things. One thing you need to bear in mind is that you are in a time where things change really, really quickly. When I was growing up, things changed over decades, or in, so many years. Or it took 100 years for something to change, or it took 10 years for something to change. But today, things change almost every other day. Every other day something new is coming up. And so you always need to make sure that you are really on top of your game. You are really in line, or you are really abreast with the changing trends, because what may be very relevant today might not be relevant tomorrow. Some of the knowledge you have today would have changed by the time you are actually ready to use it. Very simple example. I used to tell my kids that when I was growing up, there used to be 9 planets. Now, when I ask them, they tell me there are 8 planets and some other small things that are attached to it. Whatever they call it, planets, baby planets or micro planets or whatever. When I was growing up, my very eyes may just see under 9 planets. That's all I knew. There were 9 planets, right? But the knowledge has changed because technology has advanced, and things, there has been so many improvements now. Today we say, Pluto is not a planet anymore. It is something else, right? So the knowledge changes. Knowledge is not static. Same way for the work environment. Because the knowledge and the technology is changing, the work environment is not static. So you have something that is great today. You've learned so many things in school, and they are good enough, but they are not there yet. You are not there yet. You need to continuously learn, and you need to continuously evolve, because The technology is changing so fast that it is changing the way we work, it is changing the way things happen, and it is also changing the way customers demand services. So most of us, basically when you work, you deliver something for a customer. It doesn't matter what kind of work you do, you deliver something for a customer. And the needs of those customers are also changing. So if the customer's needs are changing, your work is just to satisfy those needs. The minute you stop satisfying the customer's needs, you're out of a job, right? So those needs are changing and you need to also change. And that means that you need to learn, relearn, unlearn certain things and, make changes with how some things work. When I was growing up, when we say work, it means I walk into an office in a headquarters. They say Vodafone headquarters. We all walk in there and we work. But today, I work 70-80% of the time at home, right? So, when Prof was saying that, he comes to work in jeans, I was just thinking in my head that, sometimes I go to work in my, in my shorts, because I'm working from home. And I'm in an emergency, I'm in a conference call with somebody. I'm wearing, I'm wearing my shirt on top nice, but I'm sitting behind my table and I'm wearing shorts, right? At least you can see me in video, you see my face, my face says I'm wearing a shirt, but I'm wearing a shorts. So you don't get up, especially if it's a video call, you don't get up until the call is over. You double click to be sure that, Charlie, the video camera is turned off. Or you shut the camera just to be sure, double sure. But that's how things have changed. And I was trained with, you come, you sit in this class, or you sit in this office, this is your chair, it is yours all the time. Every day you come and you sit on it. That is where you work. It is your place. Everybody who wants to find you comes to that chair and they find you. But today, if you want to find me, probably you have to come to my house. Because 70% of the time I'm working from home, and then probably 30% of the time I work in the office, right? So things change. And if your mindset is only that, I'm going to finish, go and sit in an office and work, maybe by the time you are ready to work, that 30% cry is gone. It will probably be down to 90% or even 100%, right? So you need to understand that these things change, you need to adapt, and you need to be able to fit in. Working from home is very different from working in the office. There's somebody always looking at you, making sure you are doing your work if you're in the office. You can't just go and idle about. You can't go and check your YouTube and do all those, Insta, post some Insta pictures. You can't do that if you're in the office, right? But if you're in the house, 95% of the time, nobody is monitoring you. You need to be disciplined enough to get your work done, right? So you now need to learn that kind of discipline to say, well, I have to get my work done. I have to sit down. I won't get distracted by the latest series, which is still showing, or there's a new series, you need to watch it quickly before you come back to work. There's nobody watching you, but you have to deliver. And if you're not disciplined enough, you find that all of a sudden your productivity starts dropping, and then somebody chucks you out of the door. So you need to learn, you need to evolve, because the work environment is changing all the time. And you also need to make sure that you are being relevant, or you're staying relevant, by getting on the skills that are needed to make you stay relevant. Now, there are two main categories of skills that you need, and like Prof, mentioned some of them. There are those hard skills. That's what you learn in school. You come, you sit in the class, somebody tells you about some formulas or some nice things about, whether it's engineering, whether it's electrical, telecom, cybersecurity, computer engineering, whatever. You build those hard skills. You build that kind of knowledge in a technical field, right? Or whether you are in the humanities and you are doing something in sociology, or you are doing something in psychology or whatever, you build a skill in that. Those are your hard skills: marketing, finance, or you do any of the raw sciences, physics, chemistry, or whatever it is. You build some hard skills, you build some knowledge, you build some fundamental in those areas, right? Those are the hard skills. That is the easy part. That's really the easy part, because that one, you can go and sit somewhere, you come to class, you have the benefits of some great professors, they teach you, you understand it, and you have some control over it. That's the easy part. So those hard skills, you find that everybody in this room would have those hard skills. So just to start off, you are almost all on the same level, right? But where the difference comes in is the soft skills. And like Prof said, you don't work alone. Unless you're a one-man business, or you're a one-woman business, you do everything on your own. You do all the finances by yourself, you do all the marketing by yourself, you do all the coding or whatever things you need to do all by yourself. But that would be a very small business. Some small side hustle, that's fine. But in any corporate environment or in any big industry, you never work alone. So you need to work with people. And those are where your soft skills really, really, really matter. You can be the most brilliant person. If you can't work with people, it will be hard to keep a job. or it would be hard for anybody to, get you in, because you would have to work with people. You do something, somebody else does something, you have to bring it together for the whole thing to work. So if you can't work with people, you can't get along with people, you don't build on those soft skills, then you are not ready for the job market, or you are not ready to get into the work environment. So some of these, soft skills would be, your ability to work in a team. You need to, be able to collaborate with people, get things done, think together with others, pick up, communicate things to other people. One of the things that I realized with most engineers is that, our communication is really bad. We understand what we do, especially for engineers, and people that do raw sciences. We really understand what we do. We are just lousy at communicating it, right? The people that are really good at marketing, that's when it's really good when you work with a team, because the marketing and sales people, even when you don't want it, they can convince you that you need this. They know you don't need it. They know you don't want it, simple. It's not like you even need it. You don't want it. But the marketing or a salesperson can convince you that, my friend, you need this thing. If without this thing in your life is, there's something wrong with your life. If you don't have this thing, Charlie, you are not part of, you can't enjoy life. What are you doing if you don't have one of these things, right? And that's why it's always good to work in a team, because then you bring your different strengths together and you make things work together. So you need to be able to work, you need to be able to learn to communicate, and then you need to be able to solve problems. 99% of your job will be to fix a problem or to make something happen. Most of the things you are doing actually are fixing problems or making things easier for people. And you need to build those problem-solving skills. And then on the other softer side, you need to be very flexible. Again, because things are changing. Again, because you are relating with other people, you need to build some flexibility to be able to fit into a working environment. We all come from different backgrounds. We've all gone to different schools. You guys are very lucky. You've come to a very great school. Some of us will go to some other schools, and then we'll all still end up in the same office. You need to be able to understand that everybody is coming from a different place. And so you need to be able to be flexible, and you need to be able to be adaptable. And then there are some other things that you need to have generally. You need to be curious. In this day and age, if you are not curious, you can't be creative. And I usually say this because, any work that is repetitive, right, and doesn't require a lot of thinking, any machine can do. Today, I work with a team where we design robots for general tasks in the office. So there's somebody that is probably sitting in the office, and all he's doing is copying something and pasting it somewhere and sending it to somebody. You will not have a job in 2 weeks, because we will automate that process. There's a robot that will every day go in every 5 minutes. That robot doesn't get angry when his girlfriend leaves him or his boyfriend leaves him. He's always there and working. He never gets tired, right? And you are sitting there always copying and pasting, and you'll be out of a job very soon. Right? So you need to be curious. You need to be innovative. You need to be creative, because the things that are creative and the things that are more softer are more difficult to automate. Not impossible, but they are more difficult to automate. They are more difficult to have machines do, right? So those small, emotional things are things that machine cannot do. But if it's a task that is repetitive, if it's a task that is monotonous, it's the same thing. You copy this from here, put it here. You go and collect somebody's bag and drop it here. You do this. You'll be out of a job very soon. All you are sitting there is that somebody dictates. You go to the meeting. You take notes. You'll be out of a job very soon. Because today there are softwares that I can dictate to. They'll write everything for me, send it to somebody without even me touching my laptop or touching my phone, right? So what's your business, just doing that kind of work? You'll be out of a job very soon. Even driving, there are autonomous cars today. So even if it's driving, very soon you'll be out of a job because there are self-driving cars. So you always need to think about those things that are creative, those things that are innovative, because that is where we are going, where you need to build some of those skills. And then you also need to be able to adapt quickly to change, because things will change. In a working environment today, 2 months, 3 months, everything could change. So you need to be very, very adaptive. So I just put this up there as a very, this is what we look out for if you're coming to Vodafone and you're going to work in my team. We don't, you find that when we define your key responsibilities, right, or what your role purpose is, it's about, working in a squad, ensuring that there is timely, efficient delivery of features and functionality, and then you contribute to development, release, and blah, blah, blah. You define product vision. It has nothing to do with anything simple. For you to be able to have a vision, you must be creative, you must be innovative, right? So this is like a very typical, job profile that we'll put out, right? And we are asking for people who can look at, creating a vision, creating a roadmap, looking for growth opportunities. Opportunities are things, or those opportunities are things that you need to find yourself. It's not like they are there, you just go and copy and paste. You need to find them, you need to refine them. And, you do things that are really things that you need a human being to do. It's not something that you can easily get a machine to do. And those are some of the things that you need to bear in mind. The job profiles today will not say, okay, you should have good mathematics skills, you should be able to add, or you should be able to understand certain principles. No, nobody's going to ask for any of those things. It will be how you apply some of those things in your everyday work. So if you did something that's around entrepreneurship in school, you need to apply it when you apply for some of these jobs, right? Because that's where they make a difference. And your core competencies, it says you should have. The first thing is about good interpersonal skills, communication, time management, and presentation skills, right? I'm not even asking for your ability to code or your ability to do something that is extremely technical. The very first core competency we ask for is about good interpersonal skills, communication, time management, and presentation skills. Time management, because you'll be working on your own most of the time from your house, right? If you can't manage your time well, I'm screwed, because I'll be asking for something and you never get it to me. Presentation skills is, as soon as you have something, you need to be able to make a case to somebody to say, actually, we should do this. You need to be able to present it to your colleagues, to your, to your other stakeholders, to the other people you work with. If you can't communicate it, then you have a problem. Even though you may have a very great idea, you may not be able to get it done. You have to be a creative thinker, sharp, analytical, problem solving. Push data-driven decisions. It's not just about making decisions, data-driven. So your analysis is, has to be on point. And then you need to now go into your technical and your professional, which is what we put second. There's a good reason why we bring those core competencies, which are soft first, than the technical ones. Because it's easy to find people with the technical skills. It's more difficult to find people with those soft skills. So you need to bear in mind that those soft skills are really, really important, right? So, building the capacity for tomorrow, today. So, as you go through your career, the first thing you need to bear in mind, and like I mentioned before, is the fact that you always need to, in that first box, build depth or breadth. You must be either very good, if you are going to, be specialized in an area, then you must build depth. You must be the best person at whatever you do. So, if it's coding, your coding must be on point. It's not that you come and write one line of code, you go and drag and drop some, some button somewhere, you put it somewhere, you put some small code behind it, and that's it. No, you must be able to start understanding, why is the code behaving this way? Why do I need this library? How does this library work? You should start writing your own libraries. You should start writing your own APIs. That is depth, right? Or if you want to become a manager, then you need to build more breadth, because managers usually manage different people who are doing different things. And for you to be a manager which is managing other people, then you need to have a wider breadth. So you learn different areas. So yes, I'm an engineer, but I have an MBA because I need to manage people, right? So I need to build human resource skills. I need to build financial management skills. I need to build, project management skills because I am a manager. Otherwise, if I want to become a specialist in an area, then you build depth. But if you want to become a manager, you need to build breadth, all right? And then you also need to manage your own career, your skills, and your development. The first thing my HR told me is that your career is your responsibility. It is nobody else's responsibility. It's not the responsibility of your HR or your manager. First and foremost, it is your responsibility. So you need to know that that career is your own responsibility. You need to now determine which path you want to tread, whether you want to build a managerial capability or you want to build a specialist capability. It is up to you to decide. And those are decisions that you need to start making on very early, because then it helps you to then be able to shape what you do next. So maybe you are graduating with a BSc, you need to start thinking, okay, what do you want to do? Which areas do you want to get into? And then you use that to shape your next steps, which kind of jobs you do, and all those things will then fall in place. And then also you need to develop the most critical and in-demand skills, right? Sometimes there are some skills that are really, really in demand, like today. If you have coding skills, you are really, really hot. And it's what is in vogue right now. Everybody has to have some coding skills. And everybody is doing something that requires you to have some coding or something. So if you have those in-demand skills, then, Charlie, you be the orga. Everybody would be looking out for you, right? So you need to build those in-demand skills. And that means that you need to find out which skills are most relevant within which time. So if today the most in-demand skills are coding or programming, you need to see whether you have the capability to do it, and then you need to see how you prepare yourself in that direction, right? If tomorrow it's around, having people who can do analytics and all those things, you look at that and say, okay, well, right now it's shifting more towards analytics, and then you need to go into that direction, right? So you need to see what skills are in demand, and then you work towards that. And then you have to do continuous learning. Charlie, you never finish learning. Sometimes you think that when you are done with school and you finish and you get your BSc, Charlie, you are done. It's just the beginning. You've not even scratched the surface. There's more to learn, right? So you need to know that you have to continuously learn. It's something that you always need to do to add more value to yourself. Okay, so again, at Vodafone, one of the things we did was that we realized that, yes, we have people that have been working with us for years. By the time they finish school, certain things were not in demand. So what we did was we launched something we called Plus One More Skill. So you've all been trained in something, or we're all trained in something, but things have changed. So for you to still continue to remain relevant, you need to add a new skill to whichever skill you had. Because without that new skill, you probably will not be very relevant in the next 2 or 3 years. Because we see where we are going in terms of as an organization and what we want to do, and we think these are the skills that we need. If you build skills that are not relevant to us, then you will not add value to us. If you are not adding value to us, then we really don't need you in the organization. So we started what we called Plus One More Skill. And then look at some of the skills that we have up here. So these are skills that you not usually find, but for us is what we need to do next, or what the future actually holds. So we need to now build these skills. So skills around, big data and analytics, UI, UX design, because you are doing a lot of digital stuff. So you need to have the right kind of user experience and the right kind of user interfaces. Cybersecurity, because most of the things we are doing are going online. So you always need to make sure that they are very, very secured. Robotic process automation, looking at how we automate tasks that we do every time. So I have some of my colleagues here, all they do is that they go take some tasks that somebody is doing and then they automate it. If you don't learn a new skill, essentially you become redundant, because there's a new kid on the block called robotic process automation that is actually doing that job, right? Digital and lifestyle content, a lot of the things that you do today on social media is really around digital and lifestyle content. So content is really a very big thing, for the going forward. Blockchain, Internet of Things, machine learning, artificial intelligence. I work with a team that works on Vodafone chatbot. Okay, so we run a chatbot that actually can chat with you. You'll be chatting with somebody, but it's actually just a machine that uses artificial intelligence to learn. Cloud computing, software engineering, fintech, and then agile. Agile is just a very nice way of saying we are changing how we are working, right? So these are things, or these are areas that you really need to learn, especially if you want to work with an organization like us. But it applies to a lot of other organizations, because most organizations actually are transforming and using a lot of these technologies and a lot of these areas. So you need to gain new skills in these areas. They may not be things that you may have directly done in school, but there's a lot that you can apply based on what you've learned in school to pick up additional skills in some of these areas. So, are you ready for the future? Sure. What makes you think you are ready for the future? Somebody to tell us why he thinks they are ready for the future. He or she thinks they are ready for the future. It's question time. if you don't look at me and you don't, I will call you. So if you know, look at me. If you don't look at me, if I see that you are not looking at me, I'll just call you. If you don't volunteer to, I'll call you. Are you future ready? Okay, so it's about, like Prof mentioned earlier, it's about the fact that you need to, and you find that the things that we'll discuss under being future ready are more directed towards very soft things, not the hard things. Again, like I said, the hard things are a given. Anybody can learn the hard stuff and be able to deliver. The thing that makes the difference is those soft skills, right? So the first thing we are saying is that you have to be dynamic. There's, you need to be able to continuously learn, and learning is just fundamental. You need to continuously and constantly reskill and upskill. So again, like I said, you've been taught some basic skills from your years in the university, or from the very few years that you started working in the, or you've been here in the university. But that skill is not enough. So you need to always reskill and then upskill. You need to be enthusiastic and motivated and also very passionate. It's challenging because for you to be creative and innovative, you need to be passionate. Without passion, you can't innovate. Without passion, you can't create, because it takes passion, right? Because you need to be passionate about something to be able to invest the time to actually now do the thinking around it, to be able to create. And then you need to be flexible and then adaptable. I said there's something interesting here. You need to learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? So there are things that you have learned, and there are things that you will learn when you get into the job or when you start working. But you get to the point where some of the things that you learned at the beginning of your job no longer are relevant, and you need to unlearn them. That is really tough, especially when you've done a thing for a very, very, very long time. I'll give you a very simple example. So let's say in our organization, we used to do a lot of working, and if somebody needed to send you work, they would just send you an email, right? So at the end of the day, you have like a ton of emails that you need to go through, you need to check, and you always need to make sure that you are checking your email to be sure that if there's any task that has been assigned to you, you can get to it, right? And then we said, no, we want to change how we are working and become more collaborative. So people that are used to sending emails, and sometimes people can sit down, draft an email, a long email, telling you everything that they need you to do for them in an email, and then they send that out to you, right? And then you respond with another email. For the same job, you respond with about 6 or 8 emails going back and forth between people. And then they saw it as, hey, we are really working hard, right? And then we get into a time where we say, no, now we do less email communication. So if you want somebody to do something for you, you either walk to their desk, or you call them, or you chat up with them on a video conference or something, right? It's entirely new. For somebody that has been only working with emails, you have to unlearn sending emails for every task that you need somebody to do, to learn how you walk to somebody when you need something done, or to call them when you need something done, right? So you get to that point where you need to unlearn some of the things that you already know. And sometimes it's hard, because what comes to you naturally is that, I know that if I need somebody to do something for me, I just pick up my laptop, type an email, and just push it out, right? So you need to unlearn some of the things that you already know. And then you need to be able to relearn. Relearn the new stuff. Relearn the fact that, if I need somebody to do something for me, I need to get up and then walk to them, speak to them, and then ask them for whatever I want, or, call them on the phone and get them to deliver what I want, right? So you need to learn, unlearn, and then relearn. And then you also need to be able to transform and then transition. It's so important, because you'll be dealing with a constantly changing environment. So if you are not able to transform, or you are not able to transition through those changes, you always struggle. So again, if I use the email example again, if you are somebody that was so used to it and you can't change and you can't transition from sending emails, you always find out that, your job is always getting delayed because, you sent an email and the person is expecting that you be calling them. So they are not checking their emails as often as they used to do. And you are still sending emails. So it becomes a little bit more difficult for you to be able to get things done. And then the second thing is about being able to connect, And Prof mentioned a bit of this. So you need to be able to interact with people. In the work environment today, you are constantly interacting with people, right? So you need to be able to connect with people, and you need to build relationship. It's not just about, I come to the office and you just go, right? Sometimes you don't like the people, but like Prof said, but you need to build a relationship because you work on relationship, right? You can't underestimate the power of relationship when it comes to work. There are people that you would go to and you can send them an email, yeah, they will take it, or you can call them on the phone, they will respond to it, they will do whatever you want. But when the person knows it is this person or it is that person, the approach to it sometimes is very different because they know they have a relationship, right? So it's always good to always make sure that you have a relationship. And it's about being able to connect. In the organization, there'll be so many people. You need to know who the right person is to talk to for whichever thing you need. And in a working environment, there are so many things that you need. From HR, from finance, from your legal team, from your technology team, from across everywhere, or from your customer care team. For every one single thing that you need to deliver, sometimes you need to talk to 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 different people, right? You need to be able to connect to them, know the right person, and then be able to connect to them to get the support. And sometimes you have to do the same. Just like you also need other people, you also need support from other people. Other people also need support from you. So you also learn how to support others, and then sometimes even empathize with them when they are going through hard times. Sometimes it's as simple as, the person is having a party and you just go there. It's about, building a relationship. Or the person is having a naming ceremony and you just pass through to just say hi. Sometimes you think it's, oh, Charlie, this one there, Charlie, is his own party, let him have his party. But it helps you to build a relationship because then you build a relationship if you are attending the person's party or you are going to their outdooring or whatever occasion it is. It helps you to then build that kind of relationship that can help you. And then the third thing is that you need to be able to create, innovate. You need to have a different kind of mindset. My boss says that, every time you have to come and you have to qualify for your job. It means you have to be creative every time. Every single day you need to create. Every single day, there are things that you are doing that sometimes you need to just take a pause and ask, can I do this better, right? That is creativity. It's not like the thing is not working. They usually say if it's not working, you don't fix. But actually in the work environment, there are always things that you can do to improve on whatever you have. So sometimes you just need to take a step back, you need to think through it, and then you need to create new ways of making things work actually better. And you need to have that kind of mindset because without that kind of mindset, you never stop to take a pause and then get things done, right? So usually I tell the people I work with is that, sometimes, when they give you work, you are just in a hurry to just go and do it. The timelines are there. And in a corporate environment, sometimes timelines are like crazy. Your boss gives you something today and they want it yesterday. They gave it to you today, but still they want it yesterday. So sometimes, by the people I work with, they will ask me, boss, Charlie, when do you want this? Well, I'll tell you, yesterday, right? It tells you how quickly we need it, right? Because it's always something you're always going to have to battle with. And sometimes in the effort to get those things done, it takes you a lot of, you want to get it done, so you just jump into it and then you do it. However, I usually say that, sometimes you just have to take a step back, think through what you want to do, and now find a way to do it that will be much quicker. But most of the time, the default is that as soon as they give you the job, you just jump. Charlie, what do I have to do? There, you bring this, you do that. And, the pressure is there. But if you are not able to cope with that pressure and manage that pressure well, it brings more pressure. Because I would always be calling you 5 minutes down the line to ask, Charlie, how far? How far with the thing? Where are we on this? The pressure will still continue to come. But if you do take a step back and, get into that creative way of thinking through the problem, usually you can be able to solve the problem in much shorter time than you actually think that you do. The environment is always fast-paced. Nobody is going to slow down for you. Forget it. It is what it is. Nobody will slow down for you. If you can't cope, Charlie, you just walk out, right? But it is the pace is always fast, and you always need to be able to adapt, and you always need to be creative for you to be able to adjust to some of that pace. And then finally, you need to be able to collaborate. This one, it's important that you bear this in mind. You need to be able to collaborate. You need to be able to work with people. You need to be able to get things together, because for anything that you do, like I said earlier, you work on different parts and you have to bring it together and let it work. If you do not collaborate, you'd always have a problem with being able to deliver, because you don't have an understanding of what the next person is doing and how it relates to you or what their request is. So you always have to be in that state where you are learning to collaborate. And one of the key things when it comes to collaboration is your ability to effectively communicate. You cannot collaborate if you don't communicate well. So you need to be very clear with some of the things that you have to do, and then you can work collaboratively towards that. So the final thing, what Vodafone has in store for, young graduates and then mainly the female engineering students. So Vodafone is really passionate about the youth. We have quite a number of programs that we work on when it comes to the youth. So the first thing is on the Discover graduate program, which is usually open to people who just completed their national service. It's a 2-year program that is where you get real mentoring and you get to work across the business. You build a lot of knowledge and you can become so effective and so powerful. Most of the people that really graduate from that program are people that really are top-notch. First thing you need to bear in mind, it is extremely competitive. Extremely. We probably pick only about 10 to 15 people and usually start with about 1,000 or more applications. So it's a very rigorous process, but it's one of the, it's such a big platform and it's such a great opportunity. And then we also do virtual skills like we are doing today. And then we also have a youth apprenticeship program where we allow people who are either, in school or just completed school to do some apprenticeship work with us for usually between 6 months to 1 year. I'm sure the HR team at the Canopies will talk to you a little bit more about that. And then we also have a program that we organize especially for ladies, which we call the Female in Engineering Program. Our CEO is a lady, and she's also an engineer. So this is a special program for our CEO. She used to be our head of engineering, and then she became our CEO. So there's a special focus on female. In Vodafone, it's interesting. We have a program we call He for She. So you can just imagine what he for she means. So it's like we are just trying to replace every he with a she. So it's a very diverse organization, and we really, take cognizance of the fact that ladies can really add to the business, and they bring a different flavor to being able to make things work, especially within the engineering environment. In most telecom or in most, technology organizations, there are few ladies, but you find that the ladies usually really do very, very well and are able to rise to very prominent positions in the organization because they really, really do give out a lot. And then we have the girls in code. So we do coding for girls where we actually go help young ladies to be able to train, learn how to code, build basic digital skills that they can use. So these are some of the programs. You have the internship program, where for those that are in your second year, in your third year, you can apply to do the internship program that usually runs from around June to August, depending on your calendar. You can apply to it starting somewhere around end of March. So usually opens around March, and then you can apply for internship for 3 months or for 2 months from June to August. And then we have the Discover program, like I mentioned earlier. And then we have the female engineering program as well. And then we have the apprenticeship program that is also open to young graduates and the like. So to finish it off, this is an interesting quote from a Roman philosopher. He says, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. If you are not prepared, there will be no luck on your side. Some people say, Charlie, me, I'm not like you. It's because you are not prepared. Luck is what happens when your preparation meets opportunity. There will be opportunities, most definitely. The difference between you getting it and not is whether you are really prepared for it. And that means you always need to make sure that you understand what is going on. The other thing I need you to take home is the fact that, it's not enough to just simply say you are prepared, but you must stay prepared. So it's not like all your opportunities will come today. Today you might be lucky, you might probably be able to get into 1 or 2 programs with any of the people that have a fair, that are in the fair today. But, it may happen that, you don't get into any of those programs. You need to continuously stay prepared. You need to continuously ensure that you are always prepared so that when the opportunity presents itself, you can jump onto that luck. So it's not enough to just, get prepared. You must stay prepared. And the final thing is that, open mind leads to open doors. In this current working environment, you always need to have an open mind. It's about helping you to become more creative and more innovative. The minute you become fixated on any one thing, you shut the doors to your thinking and your innovation process. So always bear in mind that you need to keep an open mind, and it opens the doors for so many great opportunities. Thank you. If there are any questions. So take any questions, maybe for the next 10 minutes. If you have any questions, I have a few colleagues around, so if the question is too difficult, I'll revert. Yes. What do you think is the best advice you can ever give to somebody going into the career field? That is a mistake probably that you did, your time that you probably need to use going into the field. Can you come again? What do you think is the best advice you give to
Okay, sir. So, what do you think is the best advice you'd give to youth going into the work field? That is a mistake you probably made your time that you'd probably want us to avoid, or challenges you probably think that we need to look out for.
Okay, so, I mentioned that earlier that, when I was in school, I took some programming lessons and I never took them, I didn't take them that seriously. Today, if you are going into the field, it doesn't matter what you did, whether you did something in the arts or you did something in humanities or whatever. It's always good to have some basic coding skills, right? That's the first thing. Have some basic coding skills. Understand how to use computers. It's like, today you don't go into any big industry and not use computers, right? And it's not just about learning how to use computers. You also need to learn and understand how computers work. So again, today I work, like I said, 70% of the time at home. If I have a problem with my PC, essentially means I cannot work because I do all my work on a PC, right? So I need to understand certain basic things around what I need to do as, if I have to work on a PC. I can't make the excuse to my boss and say, boss, my PC is not working, so I can't get the work done. It's not an excuse, right? I need to make sure that at least I understand the basic things around how to use the PC and get things done. And then have some basic coding skills. Everything that you do, whether you work in the bank or whether you work in the telecom or whether you work in a production, there will be some machine or there will be something that will be controlled by a PC or something or a program or something. So understanding that, and you need to then be able to take advantage of the things that you are good at, right? So maybe for me, I realized my strength is mainly in solving problems. So I become an engineer and I continuously, not just, it's one thing being good at it, and it's another thing continuously and consciously improving on it. So there are things that I am passionate about, there are things that I'm good at, but you can't leave it at that. You need to continuously build that skill and improve on it. Sometimes it's just raw. There are some things that you know and it's just raw. You need to make an effort to, intentionally build on it. And then I'll say the third thing is that you need to have a mentor. You need to have somebody you can speak to that can advise you. Sometimes you may do all the things right, but there's that one thing that you need somebody to help you with. So there's somebody that you need to talk to, Even today, if I was going to do some work, there are works that I'll do and I'll present it to somebody and say, Charlie, I beg, you go look at it for me. You think boss will like this? Does it make sense? Right? So you need to have people that you can, fall back on. run ideas by, share ideas with, ask them, for direction, ask them for support, ask them to, just talk to them. Sometimes it's just talking, right? So you also need to have a mentor. Probably some of us didn't have that when we were growing up, but it helps you to then be able to shape some of those rough ideas that you have into really great stuff. And that's what sometimes will help you to also stay out, ahead of others. And then for me, the last thing I also learned was the fact that, for everywhere I go, for every place I stand, for every time I interact with somebody, I make a conscious effort to learn something. It's a learning process for me every single day. So if I come here and I stand here and Prof says something, or Jesus says something, there's something I will learn that I would use to add value to myself. Again, it's about being able to add value to yourself. So you need to be able to learn. Sometimes there are bad things. You learn to say that, oh, I know I don't do this, right? Like, Prof tells me, Charlie, he's wearing jeans to school and HR is asking him something. I need to learn that, Charlie. You just can't go and mess around with HR. Sometimes you need to take your stance and realize that, Charlie, this is HR. HR is powerful. Sometimes you don't even know how powerful your HR is, right? So, it's a learning process. You have to consciously make an effort to learn every time, because that's what makes you a better person. That's what you can use to add more value to yourself. Yeah? Is that okay? Cool. Yes. Okay. Since the microphone is closer, and then after that we can bring it down here.
Okay. Good morning, sir. My name is Caleb, final year student. I'm studying computer engineering with minors in telecommunication. My question would be, what would be your wildcard, or let me say secret formula, when it comes to breaking into a certain level of relevance among your peers with regards to versatility? As you mentioned in your presentation, being able to learn a lot of things, such that you're not only confined to one particular skill, but considering when your peers all have various skills aside the main task or main job criteria, how do you, or what will be your secret, formula to break through as a more relevant person amongst them, adding value to the company? Okay, so there's no magic wand. There's no magic formula. There's no secret formula. One of the things I'll say is that you first need to, like I said before, know yourself. That's the first thing. And then you need to understand the environment you are in. And like Prof said, you also need to understand your boss, because first of all, you work for your boss. You work for an organization, but you work for your boss, right? The first person you're accountable to is your boss. So I need to understand what my boss likes, or how my boss likes things to be done, right? There are things that if my boss asked me to do, it doesn't matter how well I think I have to do it. If I don't do it the way my boss wants it, I'll do it like 100 times, right? So you need to understand those situations. Every situation is different. Again, it's not like there's a magic wand and you wave it, or there's a silver bullet and it's that one thing that you need to do. There's no one thing that would make you successful. You need to find it and make the best out of it in whichever situation you are in. So first of all, know yourself. Second of all, understand the environment you are in. If you know yourself, you know what you are passionate about, you know what you are good at, you know what you are not so strong at, and then you can then use that to fit yourself in the environment that you want to be in or you find yourself in, right? So I need to understand, okay, these are, when you come to school, they teach you, and you do entrepreneurship, they teach you about SWOT analysis and all those things. Essentially, you have to do that for yourself. You need to sit down and understand, well, these are my strengths, right? This is what I'm really good at that next person is not good at. These are the things that I am weak at that, that person is really good at. You may not necessarily be able to overcome all your weakness, but understanding them is good, right? And you need to know what other opportunities there are, what other threats there are. It's about understanding that environment that you are in, and then being able to see how you can take advantage of those different things that you have in your environment. There's always that one thing that you can do that nobody can do better than you. The question is whether you can find it, right? And once you find it, it's like, you realize that, Charlie, this one day, you can even just go to sleep sometimes. When you go to the interview and you're done, they give you that job. Because you know that this one is like, they looked at the job profile and it was me that they just described there, right? And that's when you get to that point where you are confident enough to say that, when I go for this thing, after I'm done, you can be like Prof and ask, Charlie, when are you giving me the job?
because you are dead sure that this is yours, because you understand yourself, you understand the environment you are in, and you have prepared yourself for that kind of environment. And you need to find it. There's no secret way, there's no secret to saying that, oh, do this and do that. They are only guides. You need to find it, you need to do the right things, and then it would work for you. It doesn't always work the first time. Sometimes you fail, and you need to come back again, understand what didn't go too well. Because there are things that you think that, Charlie, this one day it was for me. And when they come, they tell you that, Charlie, we didn't take you. Hey! That day you get surprised. But it's part of the learning process. You learn from them, you use it to make yourself better, you go for the next thing, you keep going till you get there. Yeah? But there's no secret formula. You need to make your own secret formula. What works for you might not work for somebody else. And what works for somebody else may not work for you. There may be some commonalities, but it's never the same. Even if you are twins, it will never be the same for you. Right? Cool. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Sigrid Bruce Coughlin, and I offer business marketing. I'm a level 200 student. I would like to know about your digital skills fair, because as you said, one more skill is very relevant.
Okay, so in terms of digital skills fair, usually we would expose young people to some new technologies. So things like robots, how they work, how you can work on them, how you can configure them and stuff like that. We'll probably give you some exposure to things around, augmented reality and the like. Some people have not. Some of us are lucky to have experienced some of those things, but there are people that have not. So we take that opportunity when usually we have the digital experience fairs, where we introduce usually very young people to some of these technologies. It's about, first of all, driving an awareness and creating a sense of what is there for some of those people who, under normal circumstances, sometimes are a bit underprivileged and may not have access to some of those things. So we give them access to some of those things, interact with them. It helps to also then build that kind of interest for some of these things, because then it would help them to now start looking out for some of those things and then learning about them, and then just getting themselves prepared for what the future holds, because the future is some of those things, and for some of them they are not. But for sessions that we come here, usually we'll tell you about some of the programs we have, what it takes to qualify for some of those things, how you can apply for them, where you send those applications to, and most of the things we do are usually online. We hardly take anything hard. We are a digital organization. There are no printers in my office, except for one floor, which is the legal floor, because everything in legal has to be printed. So, except for the legal floor, there are no printers in my office. Everything is done, online. Everything is done, through the internet or through our local area network. So, once you get to the fair, I'm sure they will take you through, all those processes, what you need to qualify, and everything that's related to that. All right. Thank you all so much. You've been a great audience.
So much, Alex, for today. Everything you have said, we've been iterating it to our students, and it's a good thing that you've come to reiterate it all. This is a little token from us to say thank you again, and we hope to see you again on our campus. Thank you. Okay, guys, the session has been great, but now it's time for you to go out and sell yourselves to the companies. So go out there with confidence. All right? Thank you.
Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at ACity, are driven by. Academic City, we believe that the challenges of today are nothing like the opportunities of tomorrow. Hence, we're poised for the future. And so we say,
come join us.
Pakuli.
Biasinyani.
Oyaye Tibatane.
Zafula na bia.
Viens nous rejoindre.
Brabe kanyam.
Kizoko hadi demu.
आओ हमारे साथ शामिल हो जाओ.
As we lead the charge to empower the next generation of future leaders. Academic City University College, redefining university education. Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at Academic City, are driven by. Academic City, we believe that the challenges of today are nothing like the opportunities of tomorrow. Hence, we're poised for the future. And so we say,
come join us.
Pakuli.
Biasinyani.
Oyaye Tibatane.
Zafula na bia.
Viens nous rejoindre.
Brabe kanyam.
Kizoko hadi demu.
आओ हमारे साथ शामिल हो जाओ.
As we lead the charge to empower the next generation of future leaders. Academic City University College, redefining university education. Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at Academic City, are driven by. Academic City, we believe that the challenges of today are nothing like the opportunities of tomorrow. Hence, we're poised for the future. And so we say,
come join us.
Pakuli.
Biasinyani.
Oyaye Tibatane.
Zafula na bia.
Viens nous rejoindre.
Brabe kanyam.
Kizoko hadi demu.
आओ हमारे साथ शामिल हो जाओ.
As we lead the charge to empower the next generation of future leaders. Academic City University College, redefining university education. Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at Academic City, are driven by. Academic City, we believe that the challenges of today are nothing like the opportunities of tomorrow. Hence, we're poised for the future. And so we say,
come join us.
Pakuli.
Biasinyani.
Oyaye Tibatane.
Zafula na bia.
Viens nous rejoindre.
Brabe kanyam.
Kizoko hadi demu.
आओ हमारे साथ शामिल हो जाओ.
As we lead the charge to empower the next generation of future leaders. Academic City University College, redefining university education.